A few days later, Ashley secretly received a small note from her classmate, who used to be close with Jake. The friend slipped it to her, whispering, "He asked me to give this to you, said it was really important." Ashley unfolded it, the familiar handwriting making her heart beat faster. "Baby, try not to go to afternoon classes, okay? Meet me behind the old arcade, someone will be waiting. Just need to see you for a bit, seeing my girl always warms my heart. I miss you so much, baby." Ashley bit her lip, her mind in turmoil. She knew getting caught would be a huge problem, but the longing to see his eyes, his smile, was too strong to resist. The next day at noon, Ashley faked a stomach ache to get out of afternoon classes. She didn't dare look her mom in the eye, sneaking out the back gate. Jake stood there wearing a face mask and a baseball cap, but the sparkle in his eyes couldn't hide his happiness. "Baby! Jake!" They stood in the narrow alleyway as if the whole world around them was silent. "Let's go to my place," Jake whispered, smiling. "I have something special to show you today." "What is it?" "It's a secret. But I promise you'll like it." Ashley smiled faintly, shaking her head but still getting on his scooter. When they got to his house, Jake quickly locked the door and closed the curtains as usual. The familiar room, the faint sweet scent. The gentle breeze through the window crack made Ashley feel strangely peaceful. "Sit here, baby, I'll be right back with some drinks." "Okay, hurry." Jake went outside, leaving Ashley alone. She looked around the room distractedly, her hand lightly tracing the edge of the desk. The place where they had once studied together, their hands trembling as they held each other. Suddenly, the TV screen lit up. Jake had turned it on before leaving. Ashley turned back, a little surprised. On the screen was a strange movie, unlike the historical dramas usually on TV. She blushed, recognizing the content. Not the kind of thing girls usually watched, but it made her heart pound, both nervous and curious. Occasionally, her eyes would flick up to the screen where it showed the movie with only 2 actors. Jake stood outside, watching through the crack in the door. When he saw Ashley's hands clasped tightly together, her fingers intertwined, her lips pressed together, Jake pretended to open the door and walked in, holding 2 cans of cold soda. "Jake, what are you doing?" Ashley's face was red as she jumped up. Jake smiled, but not with his usual teasing grin. He put the sodas down, sat next to Ashley, his voice lower. "Baby, I want you to understand that I'm grown up now, not a kid anymore. I'm not trying to force you to do anything. I just want you to know that these feelings are real, not just some casual thing, not just calling each other boyfriend and girlfriend for fun." Ashley looked at him, her eyes filled with tears. "Me too, I'm scared, but I don't want to be apart from you either." Ashley didn't know what to do, but the sincerity in Jake's eyes made her feel safer. She swallowed, slowly closing her eyes as if to calm herself down. Jake gently placed a kiss on her forehead and pulled her into his arms. "I'll always be here, baby, you don't have to be afraid of anything. We'll take it one step at a time." Ashley felt the warmth from Jake, and in that moment, all her worries seemed to disappear. She gently closed her eyes, letting herself sink into the peaceful, happy feeling. "I love you," Ashley whispered softly. Jake held her tighter and smiled contentedly. "I love you too, baby." Where would Ashley and Jake's love story go, and what situations would arise next? Dear listeners, please delve into the story, The Good Girl and the Rebel. Ashley was a beautiful girl, standing out in their poor rural town. She had long flowing hair, skin as white as snow, full red lips, and a curvy, attractive figure. Born into a respectable family, Ashley's mother was a literature teacher, and her father and older brother were both math teachers. In that poor town, Ashley's family was considered stable and well-mannered, truly an intellectual family. In contrast, Jake was a rebellious townie, notorious for causing trouble. Jake's parents worked far away, leaving him to live with his grandmother. Although he lacked strict family supervision, Jake had more resources than his peers. While his friends rode old bicycles to school, Jake cruised around on a shiny Vespa, a symbol of the local, rich kids. Jake's house also had a color TV and a VCR, luxuries in their small, impoverished town during that era. In a place where most people saw education as the only way out of poverty, Jake had a different perspective. He believed that school wasn't everything. However, under pressure from his parents, Jake still had to attend tutoring to prepare for college entrance exams. But in tutoring, Jake spent more time flirting with girls than studying. And then, with his swagger, striking looks, and rare, hard-to-find items, Jake won Ashley's heart without her even realizing it. From the day she agreed to be Jake's girlfriend, Ashley was picked up and dropped off by him on his shiny Vespa every day. After just a few weeks, Ashley's body showed noticeable changes, becoming fuller, especially her chest, which surprised her classmates. Compared to the other 12th grade girls who still looked like teenagers, Ashley seemed like a real woman. Jake often bragged about his conquests to his friends, even about things that weren't very good. Once, he boasted about borrowing a movie labeled New River Flows East, but inside was an adult film, the kind that was strictly forbidden back then, even punishable by law if caught possessing or distributing it. In the 1980s, when most of the boys were still awkward and hadn't dared to hold a girl's hand, Jake already understood how adults made babies. With that early understanding and a lack of restraint, Ashley's unusually rapid physical development wasn't too hard to explain. From the day she fell for Jake, Ashley seemed to transform into a different person. The girl who had once been well-behaved, shy, and only knew books and family rules, now often smiled mysteriously, her eyes gleaming with something both gentle and wild. That afternoon, after math tutoring, Jake waited for Ashley outside the gate, leaning against his shiny Vespa. Ashley came out, still holding her books. Seeing Jake, she frowned slightly. "Aren't you going home today?" she asked softly. "Nope, I was planning on kidnapping you for a date," Jake winked. "Oh my God, I have a test tomorrow. If I don't do well, my dad will kill me. Studying is so boring. Once we graduate, we might fail college anyway and end up as factory workers like everyone else. Come on, skip school with me this afternoon, just once, so you know what freedom feels like." Ashley hesitated. Her hand tightened on the edge of her notebook, but her eyes gradually softened. Jake whispered again, his voice both lazy and sweet, "Come on, baby. The river's rising, the breeze is cool, and I even brought snacks and drinks. We can eat and watch the sunset. What if someone sees us? Then we'll just say we're newlyweds on our honeymoon." Ashley giggled, gently hitting Jake's shoulder. "Your mouth is unbelievable." But then she still got on the scooter, holding Jake tightly around the waist. Their laughter echoed in the vast countryside road, carried by the evening breeze with the faint scent of sunshine and the warmth of early love. On the way, Ashley leaned close to Jake's ear and whispered, "Baby, can you take me again tomorrow? Are you even asking? As long as you're willing to skip those boring classes. I'll take you anywhere, forever. You better keep your word, okay? I'm skipping school for you now. If you ever leave me later, don't even mention this, or I'll punish you." "Punish me how? Can I punish you with a kiss? You're such a tease." Ashley blushed, her face red, but she didn't pull her hand away from his waist. The Vespa drove further away, leaving behind the red dust of the country road and a skipped school day. The good girl of yesterday now knew how to do wrong just to be with the one she loved. From that first afternoon skipping school, Ashley seemed to enter another world, a place without homework, without her parents' watchful eyes, without exam pressure or family rules. In that world, there was only her and Jake, two young lovers living fully in each moment. In the afternoons that followed, Ashley no longer hesitated to make excuses about stomach aches, headaches, or needing to study at the library to secretly hop on Jake's scooter, and then they would speed off to his house in town. That small house was usually quiet, with Jake's grandmother only visiting from the countryside every few days, leaving the two of them as free as birds. Jake would grin every time he opened the door, inviting his wife into his home. Today, the husband is making super-duper instant noodles. Ugh, what kind of husband keeps making his wife skip school? Ashley pouted but still walked in, automatically taking off her shoes, her eyes familiar with the cozy little room they called their love nest. Jake closed the door, sliding the key into the lock. Without a word, they both understood this was their private sanctuary. Ashley sat on the bed, and Jake came closer, wrapping his arms around her from behind. Jake's warmth made her shiver slightly. She leaned her head back against his chest. You know, baby? Ever since I've had you, life isn't so boring anymore. Really? Were you really that bored before? Yeah, really bored. Going to school just to show up. Coming home and no one cared. My parents just worked far away and sent money back. Only grandma, and she's old. Doesn't understand kids like us. So, you love me because I listen to you talk? Nope. Jake leaned back, pulling Ashley down next to him. Because you're pretty, well-behaved, and smell like sunshine. And you love me too. You're lying. Ashley playfully hit Jake's chest. What kind of love encourages skipping school all the time? I don't want you to suffer because of those numbers and long essays. I want you to smile, I want you to live comfortably. Later, when I get a job, you can just stay home, have kids for me, okay? Who said we're getting married and having kids? I'm really going to marry you. I promise I'll call you my beloved wife every day. Kiss you on the cheek in the morning, cuddle with you at night. Ashley giggled softly, her eyes sparkling. Those sweet words, even though she knew they were just teenage fantasies, felt like honey poured into her heart. They lay there, hands intertwined, breaths mingling, each skipped school day a guilty pleasure, both thrilling and satisfying. The small room witnessed countless whispers, embraces, kisses, and the times she nestled close to Jake's chest, listening to his heartbeat. Baby, don't ever leave me, okay? I promise, baby. Don't leave me halfway either. Yeah. You're the only one for me in this life. If you're sad, I'll die. The evening breeze slipped through the window crack. Outside, the school bell rang, signaling the end of classes. But for Ashley, the outside world was gradually fading. Only this place remained, with the boy she loved with all her young heart. Jake and Ashley's love grew more intense day by day. Every 2 or 3 days, Jake would conveniently have extra tutoring, and Ashley would skillfully lie to her parents about studying in groups with friends. But in reality, it was just the two of them in that familiar little room, doors closed, separated from the noisy world outside. One day, it rained heavily. Jake took off his shirt, poured water into a basin, and wiped his wet hair, looking at Ashley huddled in the corner of the bed. He walked over, offering her the towel. Dry your hair, baby, I'll be miserable if you catch a cold. Ashley looked at him and smiled faintly. Your mouth is always so sweet. It's true, you're the most precious thing in my life. Seeing you all wet like a cute little kitten makes me want to hold you forever. So he sat down and pulled Ashley into his arms. They clung to each other in tight embraces and long, passionate kisses. Sometimes Ashley would bury her face in Jake's chest, breathing heavily, her eyes tightly closed, whispering, "Why is it always so warm next to you, baby? Because you make my heart burn, baby." Meanwhile, back at school, Jake became the center of the group of rebellious boys who sat at the back of the class, always teasing and making up stories about girls. But Jake himself didn't need to brag. "Hey, Jake, heard you hooked up with the goody two-shoes Ashley?" Kevin asked, his eyes wide with curiosity. Jake smirked. "Hooked up? She's practically my wife now. Goody two-shoes? She comes to my place and clings to me like there's no tomorrow." "Damn, dude, for real? Have you guys kissed yet?" Jake ran his hand over his nose in a theatrical gesture. "Just kisses, but you know, like in those Hong Kong movies? Lips locked, eyes closed, takes forever to break apart." His friend's eyes widened, some snickering. "Holy crap, you guys are just 12th graders, but you love each other like you've been married for 3 years. We should just call ourselves husbands and wives for real then." Jake boasted, "My girl fits perfectly in my arms, like a soft, fragrant kitten." "You're unbelievable, Jake. What's the big deal? You guys try holding the person you love, see if anyone can bear to let go. In their skipped school days, they no longer felt fear. Every chance they got, they would run back to each other like two lost dust devils, only finding peace when they were close. Jake once said, "Even if I get expelled, I won't regret it, as long as you still choose me, still skip school with me like this." Ashley bit her lip, her eyes turning red. "I'm scared that one day people will find out, and I'll lose everything." "That won't happen. You still have me. I'll always be here." Ever since those skipped school days at Jake's house, Ashley had changed noticeably, not in a loud way, but in a quiet, subtle way that was hard to define. Her eyes were brighter, her lips always looked slightly glossed, and her gaze was dreamy, sometimes gentle, sometimes blank as if she was missing someone. Especially, Ashley's figure began to develop noticeably. Her 12th grade AODI suddenly hugged her chest and waist more tightly than before. The girls sitting next to her started whispering. "Hey, Ashley's gotten prettier, hasn't she? Her chest looks like it grew so fast. Didn't you see her always holding her backpack in front of her? There's definitely something going on." But no matter what people said, Ashley remained quiet. She talked less, her smiles were reserved, but as soon as school ended and she saw Jake's Vespa parked in the distance outside the school gate, her face would flush, and a smile reserved for only one person would bloom on her lips. Jake was still the mischievous, rebellious Jake, but when he was with Ashley, he was like a different person, gentle and caring, always calling her baby, speaking softly as if afraid of hurting her. "Baby, you look so different today. What kind of beautiful is that? I don't even know how to describe it." Ashley lowered her head, gently covering her chest with her hand. "Don't look, baby. Huh? You're mine, baby. But at school, people look at me strangely. I feel embarrassed." Jake wrapped his arms around her from behind and whispered, "You're getting more beautiful because my love is nurturing you. If you're confident, none of the other girls at school will even stand a chance against you." Ashley giggled, her heart fluttering. Teenage love was so innocent, could be wrong, could be clumsy, but every handhold, every stolen kiss made people remember it for a lifetime. Their skipped school afternoons continued, not as frequently as before, because Ashley started worrying about exams, but each time was more passionate than the last. Jake also started being more careful, not bragging like before, keeping their love a sweet secret. "We're like two criminals," Ashley said, leaning her head on Jake's shoulder. "Yeah, love criminals." Jake smiled, "But I promise, when I have money, I'll marry you for real. For now, we'll just love secretly. I don't need much, just need you by my side whenever I'm sad. I'm here, baby, always." Yeah. The day Ashley changed, her mother, a literature teacher with many years of experience, seemed to have a sixth sense. Every time Ashley came home from school, she would look at her daughter for a long time and then quietly sigh. One day she asked, "What have you been eating lately that makes you look so rosy? You've filled out noticeably." Ashley startled, lowering her head. Maybe I've been eating more." But her evasive eyes couldn't escape the gaze of an experienced mother. One evening in the living room, her father, also a math teacher, said thoughtfully to his wife, "That girl has been acting strange lately, not concentrating on her studies, always on her phone and giggling to herself. The other day, she even skipped school. Her walk looked different too. Girls these days are so easily led astray. I suspect she has a boyfriend. We need to keep a close eye on her. If she gets involved with some bad kid, her future will be ruined." So from that day on, Ashley was under a kind of soft surveillance. Her mother secretly rummaged through her backpack, checking her notebooks for handwritten letters. Her father told her older brother, a teacher at the same school, to pay more attention to his younger sister. Ashley began to feel the pressure, sighing more often, and even her secret meetings with Jake became less frequent. One afternoon, just as they slipped out of the alley after skipping school, Ashley's mother stood right at the end of the street. "Ashley, get home right now." Ashley startled, her face paling. Jake was about to start his scooter when her mother glared at him. You! I know who you are. This is a warning. If you dare to lure my daughter again, I will go to the principal and your family. Jake clenched his fists on the handlebars, ready to argue, but Ashley pulled his arm, shaking her head slightly. Don't, baby. Go home first. She followed her mother, her steps heavy as if carrying stones. Jake stood there, watching the figure of the girl he loved being dragged away like a criminal, his eyes stinging. That night, Ashley's phone was confiscated. Her mother went through every message, every sweet word exchanged between the two. This girl calls him baby, her mother seethed. Unacceptable. Her father was trembling with anger. He's just a hoodlum, doesn't care about school, only has that beat-up scooter and wants to seduce our daughter. No more tutoring starting tomorrow. Stay home, and I'll contact her homeroom teacher. Ashley cried, burying her face in her pillow, tears soaking the fabric. In the middle of the night, she tiptoed out of her room, secretly retrieving her old phone with a backup SIM card. In the dim light, she quickly texted, "Baby, I'm grounded, but I won't leave you. Even if I'm locked in the house, I'm still your girl. I miss you so much." Just a few minutes later, Jake replied, "I'll wait for you, baby. We'll find a way. We definitely won't be apart." After the day her mother caught them, everything changed as quickly as a storm. Every morning, Ashley no longer happily walked to the end of the alley to wait for the familiar Vespa. Instead, there was the stern figure of her father. Sometimes her older brother silently waited at the school gate. Jake would stand a few dozen yards away, watching, his heart aching. Ashley would see him but didn't dare to smile, didn't dare to wave, only quietly lowered her head and walked away. The slender figure that used to be so vibrant now carried a palpable sadness. In class, Ashley's seat was also changed. She no longer sat next to her best friend or the girls who used to whisper secrets, but right in the front row, under the teacher's watchful eye. All phone communication was strictly controlled by her parents. Her mother didn't say much, but every time her eyes met Ashley's, Ashley felt like she was carrying a heavy guilt. Jake couldn't stand it, he felt like he had lost everything. Every time school ended, Jake would drive around the school, trying to find a spot where he could see Ashley. Sometimes he would pretend to go to the photo shop near the school, waiting for over an hour just to see her walk out the gate and get into her brother's car. "Ashley," he would whisper, his eyes fixed on her disappearing figure. He tried asking friends to pass messages, but most refused, afraid of getting involved, afraid of Ashley's father causing trouble at school. Jake started writing handwritten letters, secretly asking younger students to slip them into Ashley's desk. "Baby, I miss you so much. All day I just want to see you smile once. Even though they're trying to stop us, I won't give up. I dream of you every night." Ashley received the letters, hiding them carefully in her math notebook, reading each line, her eyes turning red. Under the study lamp, she bit her lip, suppressing a sigh, and quickly wrote a small reply. "Baby, don't take any more risks. I'm scared my dad will find out, but I miss you too. I miss you so much." Jake started thinking of a plan. He remembered Kevin's house, a close friend who had a small arcade near the school. Kevin had once mentioned a back exit from the arcade that led straight to a quiet alley near the school. "Kevin, help me," Jake said. "I just need to stand behind there and see Ashley for a little bit. That's all." "You're crazy, but okay, I'll help." The next day, Kevin went to Ashley's house, asking her parents if Ashley could tutor him. Jake was waiting there. When Ashley arrived and Kevin discreetly left, Jake was overjoyed. His only dream now was just to see Ashley again, to see that she was safe. Ashley sat silently, her hands clutching the hem of her shirt, her eyes fixed on the TV screen where strange and unfamiliar images were playing. She felt confused, strange, and scared. "Jake, what is this?" Ashley stammered, her voice trembling slightly. Jake sat down beside her, his eyes never leaving Ashley's face. He gently placed his hand on her shoulder, his voice warm and firm. Don't worry, baby. You don't have to be scared. This is just a way for us to understand each other better. Ashley turned to look at Jake, her eyes hesitant, her heart in turmoil. She felt uneasy, but she couldn't deny the emotions rising within her. But I don't understand why it has to be like this, she asked, her lips slightly pressed together, not daring to look at the images on the screen anymore. Jake smiled faintly, stroking Ashley's hair, his eyes gentler than ever. I understand what you're thinking, but our feelings aren't a game, Ashley. I really love you, and I want you to understand that we can control our emotions. Ashley lowered her head and sighed quietly. She wanted to believe Jake, but her heart was still filled with too much worry and fear. I don't know anymore, she whispered, then looked up at him, her eyes full of uncertainty. I'm scared it will change everything. Jake took her hand tightly, his voice soft but determined. You don't have to be scared. I won't do anything you don't want. I just want you to know that I'm here, always here, and I'll never leave you. Ashley looked into Jake's eyes, feeling his sincerity. She swallowed, feeling like she was standing on the edge of hesitation and a significant turning point in her life. But if I can't face it, she asked, her voice trembling. Jake looked at her, a faint smile on his lips, then reached out and gently tucked Ashley's hair behind her ear. As long as you truly want to, I'll always be here to go through it with you. We don't have to do everything right away, Ashley. I just want you to feel that these feelings are real. I love you, and I want to experience everything with you. Summer passed quickly, and the day the college entrance exam scores were announced arrived. Ashley sat quietly at her old desk, her eyes fixed on the score sheet in front of her, unable to believe what she saw. She had tried her best, had hoped, but the results were not what she had expected. Both she and Jake had failed the college entrance exams. Jake wasn't too surprised, he had never really focused on studying, only caring about hanging out, their dates, and the sweet moments with Ashley. He had known beforehand that he wouldn't get high scores, but that didn't mean he wasn't worried. The night before the results were announced, sitting on his bed, he had felt a sense of emptiness. Had he not tried hard enough, or had he missed too many opportunities? The result was that Jake had failed, and it wasn't surprising when he decided to follow his parents to Saigon to work. It was a decision he thought was reasonable. After all, his family had resources, and joining the family business could give him a stable future. It's okay if I work with my family, Jake reassured himself when talking to Ashley. Actually, going to college isn't everything. We can still have a good life. Hearing this, Ashley felt a wave of sadness wash over her. She remembered the months they had been happy together, but she couldn't deny that everything had changed now. It wasn't that she didn't understand Jake's reasons, but deep down, she still felt a sense of disappointment. As for Ashley, she sat silently in her room, her hands clenched tightly, looking at her exam results, her heart filled with disappointment. She blamed herself, wondering if all her previous decisions had been wrong. The months spent with Jake, the skipped school days, the sweet moments, had they really been the right thing? I failed, what do I do now, Mom? Dad? Ashley whispered to herself, tears silently falling. After those tears, she decided not to give up on fate. Ashley knelt down in front of her parents, her eyes filled with determination. Mom, Dad, I want to retake the exams next year. I promise I'll study seriously and won't let anything else distract me. I want to pass college, I want to change my future. Please give me a chance. Her parents looked at each other and nodded in agreement. Although they knew their daughter had gone through a turbulent year, they believed in her potential and understood that if Ashley was determined, she could do it. The story concluded, each person making their own decisions for the future. Jake left his hometown to work in Saigon, continuing his life on the path he thought was right. As for Ashley, after months of regret and reflection, she resolved to correct her mistakes, study again, and start over, no longer letting temptations or emotions control her decisions. She believed that even if it was late, she could still change her future. The two were no longer together, but each walked their own path, having learned important lessons about love, choices, and responsibility. Years passed. Jake, immersed in the bustling life of Saigon, found a rhythm in his work. The initial homesickness faded, replaced by the ambition to prove himself in the family business. He learned the intricacies of commerce, the art of negotiation, and the satisfaction of building something tangible. The memories of his small-town romance with Ashley became a bittersweet echo of a youthful passion, a chapter closed but not entirely forgotten. He occasionally wondered how she was doing, if she had managed to pursue her academic dreams. Ashley, back in their quiet hometown, dedicated herself to her studies with a newfound focus. The sting of disappointment fueled her determination. She spent hours poring over textbooks, the faces of Jake and the carefree days they shared serving as both a distraction and a reminder of the future she almost jeopardized. Her parents, seeing her earnest efforts, offered their unwavering support. The following year, when the college entrance exam results were announced, Ashley's name was among those who had passed, a testament to her resilience and hard work. She moved to a larger city for university, embracing the independence and the opportunities that came with it. She excelled in her chosen field, making new friends and experiencing a world beyond the familiar confines of her hometown. Yet, in the quiet moments, a pang of nostalgia would sometimes surface, a fleeting image of Jake's mischievous smile or the feeling of the wind in her hair as they rode his Vespa. One day, while scrolling through social media, a mutual friend's post caught her eye. It was a picture from a wedding in Saigon. Among the guests, she saw a familiar face, Jake, looking older, more polished, but with the same unmistakable glint in his eyes. A strange mix of curiosity and a faint ache stirred within her. She clicked through the comments, gleaning snippets of his life. He was doing well, involved in the family business, seemingly happy. Life continued its separate courses for them. Ashley graduated, found a fulfilling career, and eventually built a life with someone new. The intensity of her first love with Jake mellowed into a fond memory, a story she occasionally shared, a reminder of the impulsiveness and the depth of feeling that characterized those youthful years. Years later, Ashley returned to her hometown for a visit. The familiar streets and landscapes evoked a wave of nostalgia. She drove past the old arcade where Jake had waited for her, the school where their paths had first intertwined, and the alley where they had stolen precious moments away from the watchful eyes of the world. On a whim, she looked up Jake's family. She learned that his parents had retired and moved back to their hometown a few years prior. Hesitantly, she found their address. An older woman, with kind eyes and a warm smile, answered the door. It was Jake's grandmother. They spoke for a while, Ashley explaining her connection to Jake from their high school days. The grandmother's eyes softened with recognition. She shared stories about Jake's life in Saigon, his successes, and his eventual return home to help his aging parents. He's here, you know, the grandmother said gently. He came back a few years ago. Settled down. A wave of surprise and a flicker of something akin to anticipation washed over Ashley. She hadn't expected this. The grandmother, sensing her curiosity, offered, he's not married. Never really settled down with anyone, the way he was with you, back then. Ashley's heart skipped a beat. It had been so long. So much had changed. But the grandmother's words stirred something within her, a faint echo of a love that had once felt all-consuming. Hesitantly, she asked, Would he mind if I saw him? The grandmother smiled knowingly. I think he'd like that very much, Ashley. She gave Ashley his address, a place not far from her own family home. As Ashley drove there, her hands trembled slightly on the steering wheel. What would he be like after all these years? Would they even recognize each other? What would they say? Jake answered the door himself. He looked older, his boyish charm replaced by a more mature and thoughtful demeanor. But the warmth in his eyes, the familiar curve of his smile, instantly transported Ashley back to those stolen moments on his Vespa, the whispered secrets in the quiet alley, the intensity of their first love. A moment of stunned silence hung in the air, broken only by the chirping of crickets in the evening breeze. Then, a slow, hesitant smile spread across Jake's face. Ashley, he said, his voice a little rougher than she remembered, but still carrying that familiar warmth. Jake, she replied, her own voice barely a whisper, a lifetime of memories and unspoken words hanging between them. The years melted away, and for a moment, they were just two young lovers standing on the precipice of a new chapter, the lessons of the past perhaps leading them to a different kind of future. The ending of their story, it seemed, was not yet fully written.